Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. I have with me Priyanka Deo, and we are going to do a role reversal one more time. 𝗠ci 𝗲𝘅 President of United States. That's going to be our topic today, and we're going to be talking about a few things that have been happening very rapidly, I should say. And to know all this and more, let's welcome Priyanka. And this is going to be more of a conversational style. She'll have some insights. I have some insights. But primarily, she's going to be our guest host for the day. So let's welcome our guest host, Priyanka Deo. Priyanka, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel again.
Namaste. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be a guest host once again. But Sree, let's just jump in it because we've been talking about it, I think, for the past 2-3 days, right? So,
Yes, yes.
Republican National Convention, you saw Trump there for all of the speeches. He was sitting there, he was present. He gave the last speech of the convention. Well, let me just start with a less loaded question. What was your take of the RNC 2024?
Very upbeat and very positive. And I think, see, one of the things that uh, America discovered was Trump actually speaks in a way that he looks as if he's only talking to you. That's an amazing trait for a person, right? I mean, you have a hall of 10,000 people, but he is giving a message, but it looks like it is coming directly to you one-on-one. Bill Clinton had that. If I have to draw some parallels, and this is where he has really done well. He would go to the small towns in Midwest, and he would still be able to connect with people. Remember, he flipped both Michigan as well as Wisconsin.
Yes.
These are very solid blue states.
Yep.
And so that is his gift. And I think overall there was also a bit more of getting the nation together. It wasn't like, those guys are bad, we are good. That sort of stuff was downplayed quite a bit. So I like that part.
Yeah, I actually was going to say that. The one thing that my dad and I actually ended up watching it together. My mom was there as well. And the one thing that my dad said is, I hope he doesn't go into name calling or bashing anyone. I hope he speaks, like a future president, which is we want to unite the country. And sure enough, in his 90-minute speech, the first point was, I'm not here to fight against the Democrats. I'm here to unite the country, the whole country. There is no, one side that we're fighting against here. I'm here to unite the country. And I think that had uproars. I mean, people were tired. People were on the fourth day of that convention. It was late night that he gave the speech. I think he started at around 9 o'clock. But that actually sent the whole audience, and it was packed, the whole convention. I mean, I've never seen a convention that packed before, because the upper was full, and then the upper was also full. So everyone was just for that. Do you think the people, and that's not including the people obviously watching it live, do you think that in itself is powerful enough to, and we'll get into the points of his speech because I want to compare that to what Biden has said, but do you think that that's enough to get some people's vote, especially the youth vote? Because I think youth right now are more concerned about just how polarized the country is.
That, as well as the fact that Democrats have really dragged it out. They all knew that Biden wasn't functioning at 100%. And this was like a long time ago. Everybody knew this. And they just dragged it out till the very last minute. In fact,
so my first question is, why Biden? I mean, don't they have anybody else in that party? I mean, people are just, that's the first common sense question that people are asking. Like, isn't there anybody else? Why Biden? And why, I guess his pick was Kamala Harris. Why isn't there anybody else in that party? What do you think?
We are diverging from the topic a little bit, but I'll give you my 2 cents. Biden was the least offensive option.
In what way? That's an interesting take.
Yeah. So the reason is he has been a senator for 40 plus years. He knows how to get people along. He can reach across the aisles and get some people to agree with him or not agree with him. He had that a little bit of an effort, because you looked at the people who were there at the 2020 who are going up against Trump. Trump was strong, but Trump had COVID that he wasn't able to deal with effectively because they were still learning about COVID.
Yeah.
The PPP program, payment protection plan, paycheck protection plan, I think it's called paycheck protection plan, was actually a wonderful thing For 1 year, all small businesses got paid in full by the government. Priyanka, you probably were not here at that time, but I can tell
I was in
you,
India, but I know what PPP is. But
yeah.
what was your, I mean, you were here, so sorry, what was your take on it?
So that was very effective because everything was shut down.
Yep.
You still had bills to pay. You had mortgage payments, you had car payments, everything, right?
Yep.
So that really helped people to pick themselves up from the bottom. But unfortunately or fortunately, there were other things that happened, and you saw like 10 plus million more votes.
Yeah.
That's a first for the United States. That the number of votes cast was a big number. They explained it saying that everybody was doing mail-in ballot. We'll not go there. Let's get back to Trump.
Let's get back
Trump,
to it. Trump.
yeah.
Well, we have one question which I actually had. 𝗣𝗽𝗃 Ramaswamy, he spoke at the convention too. I'm a very, very popular guy. I mean, within weeks, he became a household name across the globe, I think, especially in India. Why do you think that he dropped out earliest? Because he did make a statement that, I don't want to be in the, I think he said something along the lines of, I don't want to be in the cabinet. I want to be more on the finance side. I want to help the economy side. Those are really, I mean, I think economy and immigration are the two biggest issues for this election, to be very honest. If you talk to the common man, if you talk to a young person, that is the first thing. Of course, there are other factors as well, but those are the first two things that people are concerned about because it's impacting everybody, right? Especially the young people who are getting out of college now, who have a ton of debt, student loans, and who are trying to find jobs, right? So these are the biggest concerns. That what about the illegal people coming in right now? And what about the economy? We don't want to pay $6. What was it in California? It was crazy, right? Above $6 for gas at one point.
Yeah.
Chicago for July 4th weekend, that's where I went. It was above $4 consistently. It is so expensive. And when Trump was here, it was $1.20, $1.60 maybe. So these are, I'm not pro or against anyone, and I don't want to be in this debate. I want people to make up their mind. But what do you feel about 𝗣𝗃? 𝗣𝗃 is a very smart guy. He, in my opinion, was a bit too young and inexperienced to take up a presidency, but I could definitely see him in the long run. I think he's playing a long game in the Republican Party. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just draw two parallels, okay? When Trump burst on the national scene, he was an outsider, just like 𝗣𝗃.
Yep.
But what Trump got going for him was that he was on The Apprentice. He was the face of that show for 7 years.
That show.
People,
you are
people, yeah, yes, indeed. And people understood how he thinks. Yep. So there was a familiarity. There was a comfort level. I mean, in one season, 23 times he would say you are fired, and one time he'll say you are hired.
Yeah. Right? That was a fantastic show. But how do you think that...
So to answer your question, let me just finish the 𝗣𝗃 part. 𝗣𝗃 needs to find some place where he'll actually be made familiar. He'll be familiar to the people from his deeds.
Apprentice 2.0. 𝗣𝗃 Ramaswamy.
Apprentice 2.0. Exactly. That's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, and he definitely has. I mean, he's a very successful person. Just personally, he's done phenomenally in his career. He's a Harvard grad. He's got education on his side. I actually think, in terms of familiarity, maybe the reality show is not the way he's going to go. But I do hope that... Do you feel, Sree, that Trump will give him a spot in, if he were to win the election? Does 𝗣𝗃 have any sort of blip on the landscape to sort of start making that and building that career for himself?
2 or 3 departments, I would say he would be well suited. For example, to try and control the drugs menace that is happening now in the United States. Many countries are actually destroying their opium crop. But guess what? Breaking Bad, I don't know if you've seen that series. That tells you how you can...
I tried getting into it. I just wasn't. It's for some people and against some people. So someone told me, watch the first episode. I did. I was like, Then someone told me, watch. No, you got to watch 2 or 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Then I did. And then I still didn't get into it. So I'm just one of the people who have never seen Breaking Bad. But I do know what it's about.
So essentially, what I'm trying to say is you can
Yep.
create meth in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's how commonplace it has become. So somewhere that needs to be broken. He has a
Mhm.
pharma background. Maybe he'll be able to give this thing as a something that is permanent, so that it doesn't happen ever again. I don't know the answer to that. So that's a hard task. So maybe he will be assigned with that drug czar, if you will, and
Yeah.
try to see if America can be saved. I think Vivek is in for a slot of something. He's also weighing running for Senate from Ohio, the Senate seat that will be vacated by JD Vance
Right.
should JD Vance become vice president. So you just project it out, right?
Yep.
Vance has to resign his senator seat, and he
Yep.
will become vice president, and then that seat will fall vacant. I think for some small period of time, the governor can nominate somebody. It's a
Mhm.
possibility that he could nominate Vivek. So there are two options there. He could be a senator. Again, he can make his voice heard, or he could be a member of the Trump administration, a
Right.
future Trump administration.
Right. Well, now that's a good segue into JD Vance. Let's talk now into what happened at Republican National Convention in terms of the speeches that were made. We don't know, by and large, people, I should say, don't know very much about JD Vance. He's 39 years old. He is a first-time senator from Ohio. He's got a wife who's Indian. There was an article today that one of his wife's family members is part of the RSS. That just came out today, but yet to be confirmed. Um, who is
Yeah, it
this
is
guy?
confirmed. I can confirm it for you. He was.
All right. Who is this guy? Tell me a little
Why are you trying to
about.
create? They're not radioactive. Priyanka, RSS is not radioactive.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
No, no,
that.
I'm just saying.
I have been I've met RSS members. I have actually been exposed to what the organization is about in India. I'm not saying anything against them. I'm just saying I'm just trying to make the point that we just don't know very much about JD Vance and Mrs. Vance at all. You have, I mean, I think you read extensively over the right after the convention. You read extensively about him. Um, Tell me a little bit about JD Vance and, if you can, about his wife, because I have not had the time, to be honest, to follow up on that article. I just saw the headline, so I'm not against anyone, but tell me a little bit about him. Let's find out more about this guy.
Yes. So J.D. Vance's wife, Usha, her maiden name is Chilukuri. Chilukuri is a small village in Andhra Pradesh.
Yep.
And they had two branches of the family. One settled somewhere in Godavari district, the other one in Visakhapatnam or Vizag.
Mhm.
And they come from a family of distinguished educationists. Her grandfather was an educationist himself, and her grandfather's elder brother or younger brother, I'm not 100% sure, was an RSS pracharak for many years. He was also the professor of Telugu in Andhra University, which is in Vizag. And his wife is today 96 years old. Her name is Kantamma.
Wow.
She's 96 years old. She has taught physics for the longest time in her life. Even today, she teaches physics.
Yeah, as Trump said, these are two very smart people, right? They
Yes,
both are
yes,
Yale
yes.
graduates,
Very
and he
true.
comes from a
Very
very
true.
educated family, intellectual family. What
Yes,
about
yes.
JD Vance, first-time senator? Everyone, actually, including myself, predicted that Trump would pick a female for his VP pick. Maybe possibly Huckabee was a popular name that was going around. Noam was a popular name that was going around, but she got some bad flack in the media. Why do you think Trump has picked JD Vance?
To understand this, all of us, we need to watch Hillbilly Elegy. This is a memoir. This is actually a real life story of how J.D. Vance grew up.
Mhm.
And if you look at that, it's about 2 hours. It's on Netflix now. I hope people from India can also watch it on Netflix. Sometimes Netflix has this thing; it doesn't
Yeah, there's
offer
a
the
lag.
same content in every country. I hope you guys watch it, Hillbilly Elegy. But the book is also available if not the movie. And it's a memoirs of how he grew up. It's
Mhm.
gut wrenching. But the more important takeaway there is it reflects how life is in the middle United States. You know, that red band between the two corners where there's a lot of blue, but in the middle there's a lot of red. Why did the country turn so red? Except for pockets like your area, Illinois, which is more of urban, it's all red, nothing else. So why is it? What has happened to the people's livelihoods? What exactly is wrong with America? And this is a success story of somebody who has really pulled himself up from this bootstraps, and the hardest childhood that you can imagine. And you go through that. There are a couple of scenes that really stop you, Priyanka. I can tell you that there are a couple of scenes there where it really stops you. And fantastic acting. The person who acts as Usha is the Slumdog Millionaire fame, Pinto, Freida Pinto.
There we go.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about his family. I mean, this is a movie, but it's based on his autobiography.
Yes.
He comes from a very broken family. Tell me a little bit about that. Let's break down JD Vance a little bit for our audience.
So he was born in Ohio, but kind of grew up back and forth between Kentucky and Ohio. They're neighboring states. And his mom was a valedictorian, which means second rank in high school. Yet she ended up getting pregnant at the age of 13. So from that point forward, her life was full of challenges. She registers herself to be a nurse. She becomes a nurse, and then she ruins it because she also gets addicted to drugs. Boyfriends in and out. And there are two children, JD Vance and his elder sister. They grow up. And JD doesn't know which way his mother would fly. I mean, there is this imminent feeling that, oh my God, am I in danger? And then the story goes back and forth between his childhood and current day, back and forth. And you have to really stay tuned. I mean, you cannot get away from this and say, okay, I'll watch it later. This is not that kind of a story.
No, and I really hope people watch it. But now let's fast forward to his speech at the convention. He's really a guy who has made himself, as you said before when we were talking, from nothing. It's really, really quite an inspiring story, and not even, I would say, inspiring to the point where you're kind of like, oh, it blows your mind from where he comes from and where he is right now.
Go ahead, Priyanka.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, Priyanka, there is a moment in the movie that comes. There's a thing called Meals on Wheels. You may have heard of this.
Yes.
People who are really poor can sign up for this.
My neighbor used to get Meals on Wheels. Yep, she was a senior citizen, and then she passed away.
And that's what turns his life around. I don't want to give away the whole thing.
I was just going to say, no spoilers. No spoilers. But I think everyone wants to watch it because they just don't know enough about him. What do you think about his speech at the Republican National Convention?
Speech was very good. I think he became famous even before that speech because he said that now there is an Islamic country with the nuclear bomb, and he meant United Kingdom. And that really, opened people that, my goodness, what he's saying is right. And then sure enough, there are riots in Leeds. The problem in Leeds is very interesting, and it goes from the Romans there being up against the police, and then suddenly the whole thing is hijacked by somebody else. Let's get back to JD Vance. So JD Vance has the gift of the gab, articulation, and you have to go back and watch this memoir to understand his relationship with his wife.
What is his relationship with his wife in a nutshell? Just give me 2 sentences without any spoilers.
No, the never give up attitude, and also spirituality that comes in. He was not a church goer, but somewhere he goes and digs deep within that strength, inner strength.
So the reason why, Sree, I'm asking you all of these questions and we're talking about it really is the Democrat National Convention is coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's the middle of August 19th, I think. That's when it is. So everyone's going to be keen on what Biden has to say. But from this Republican National Convention, I think Trump and JD Vance covered everything from what's going on globally. As you said before, JD Vance made a statement about the UK, which was very popular. Trump also spoke about Russia, Ukraine, from globally to basically locally. I mean, Trump covered everything from what's going on in global politics to even the electric vehicle policy that he has promised to eliminate. A lot of people criticized the speech, and a lot of people praised the speech. Number one, it was 93 minutes long. It was the last speech of the convention. So I actually tuned into NBC's live stream of the speech. And these reporters, I mean, I just got a little turned off because they were saying, oh, a lot of people are sleeping during the speech. I don't think that's relevant because there were many people, many more people awake and watching the speech on live stream. I mean, you got to understand that the guy has just been shot at. He's going to be a little tired at 9 p.m. on day 4 of the national convention, if that is even an issue. I was impressed with the way that he covered everything in the speech. It's almost a different sort of persona than when he first ran for president, right? He seemed like
Yes.
a very seasoned politician. It was a very, first of all, what do you feel about this subdued tone that he had? I just want to know what you think.
Now stories are emerging, or news is emerging, that there was possibly a second shooter also. I did a shorts and that's gone viral.
Mhm.
Viewers, if you have not seen it, do watch it, and we may be able to try and load it here to show to our viewers. So the point here is he spent about 10 minutes talking about it
Mhm.
and how God saved him, because now people are analyzing the angles and everything,
Yeah.
and they are saying that he just happened to turn to his right to look at an immigration chart that was displayed on one of the billboards, and
Mhm.
that's what perhaps saved him.
Mhm.
And so there's that moment, right? Oh my God, I could be in a casket today if it was not for that providence.
Yep.
And so there was that feeling that I'm so glad that I'm still alive, that God saved me. This is the first time I'm seeing him refer to God. Trump is not somebody you would say is
Never.
spiritual or religious by any stretch of
Never.
imagination. That was a good one. But
Mhm.
more than that, I wanted to talk about a few things that he touched upon. Clearly, he says that illegal immigration is going to be stopped and it will be turned around. And I'm still curious how you can turn back 15 million illegals. First of all, how are you going to spot them? US is a very big country. Second of all, even if you catch them, where are you going to leave them? You cannot fly them back to their country. They didn't ask you and come here. So at the best, you may be able to take them to the border and let them loose there. What is stopping them from trying again?
Mhm.
So there are all these questions available. But let's just set that thing aside for a moment. The intent is important, at least to stanch the future people from coming in. US needs workforce, but it needs workforce of a certain type.
And I
Uh,
like how he dispelled the and like I said, I don't want to give away who my vote is for because I do a very objective vote as to who I think is going to be the next. See, to me personally, it's not about you can do what you want in your personal life, but who is the best out of the two candidates in America now that we're coming winding down? Who is the best to run the country? That is what I look at. So I look at the policy, I look at the promises, I look at who's going to deliver for the country, who puts the country first. When I really liked about Trump's speech. I had some critiques of it too, but I really liked when he was talking about immigration because there's a lot of misinformation online that he's against immigration altogether. That is not true. And
it's not true.
I'm glad that he dispelled it very clearly in the convention. That we're not against immigration. I'm not against immigration. I am against illegal immigration.
Right.
But
Right.
then, as you said, the first question that comes to my mind, and I'm sure a lot of young people's minds especially, is, well, what are you going to do about all the all the millions of people that have already come over and are getting ready to get their documentation, right?
Yes.
But
Yes. Yes.
let's leave that aside. He also spoke, like I said, globally. He mentioned that under me there were no wars. Under me there was no conflict. There was world peace, which is a fact. I mean, that was an absolute fact. Was that luck, do you think, or was that just Trump's policies, Trump's effectiveness as a former president?
um, Trump was not actually accepted by the Republican rank and file. Even though he won the election, he was not accepted by the rank and file. But in these last 4 years, I think he has got that acceptance.
Yep.
Now, if you don't get the endorsement of Trump, you don't win. Period.
Yep.
So people understood how good Trump was only when they saw his successor Biden.
Yep.
That's when they realized, oh my goodness, he was so much better, even though at that time he was vilified by the press.
Yeah.
So just set that aside for a minute.
Mhm.
You touched upon drill baby drill, which is one thing that he said, that we
Yep.
are going to go back to drilling. Now,
Mhm.
I want to share some numbers with our viewers on what does it cost to take out 1 barrel of crude. In
Okay.
Russia, it is between $2 to $15 a barrel, depending on which geography you're located in. In Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it averages around $5.40 per barrel.
Mhm.
And in the United States, it is $26 to $43 a barrel.
That's right.
And at 43 is usually the shale, because shale, what happens is you actually get sand, and the sand has to be steamed, and you have
Yep.
to separate the oil from there. Then the water, you need a lot of water for it. What are you going to do with the water that has been contaminated? You have to find a way to get rid of it. Shale is a messy process, let's
Mhm.
say. So if they are going to drill, there are lots of areas that have been untouched in US has had a policy that we will drain the world of its oil, and then we will start tapping our oil.
Right.
So this is something that's going to be interesting, because all along the coast, west coast as well as east coast, you can drill, and in many lands also. You'll see, if you're driving through mainland USA, suddenly you'll see that thing goes, that drill on farms. People
Mhm.
are taking out crude. I don't know what they do with it, but they are always taking it out. So the point there is that US could again become an exporter of oil. That's what it was under Trump. And that would basically bring down overall cost, because remember that there is a direct cost of commodities and there is an indirect cost.
Mhm.
When the crude price goes up, then the price goes up at the pump. That is your direct cost when you pay for gas, diesel, or whatever, right?
Mhm.
But there is an indirect cost. What is the indirect cost? The cost of taking commodities from place A to place B, where if somebody is driving a truck, and if the cost of the gas goes up, where is that cost going to be absorbed? It's going to be absorbed in the price of the commodity itself.
Right.
And the person will, bump it up a little bit more to have a little bit more for himself or herself. So this is called as indirect cost.
Mhm.
The problem is the indirect cost has a 4x multiplier effect.
Mhm.
This has been done. Research has been done in many countries where they have seen what happens when you try to play with the basic price. Because
Right.
most countries like this easy money, they tax the crude at the import level, and when it is imported, and then that goes directly to the treasury, and then use that for other things.
Right.
So this is the main thrust. If we can lower the crude price, if US becomes like safety valve for oil, today OPEC is dictating it, right? If US becomes the safety valve, meaning anytime it threatens to go out of range, US comes in and starts producing to make up for the shortfall,
Mhm.
then you are controlling the basic price of energy, core energy.
Right.
Then you will be able to control the prices of commodities.
Mhm.
Today, the oil companies are making money hand over fist.
Yep.
The weapons manufacturers are making money hand over fist, and
Yep.
everybody to do with financing, they are making a lot of money, which don't even cross our desks anymore. So
Yeah.
these are all the people who are making a lot of money. Some of them will get affected if crude goes down, then the indirect multiplier also starts going down. People will not be happy. That's why you will see deep state do everything possible to try and derail his campaign. I don't think that's going to happen, because many things have happened now. Assassination attempt, plus the fact that JD Vance is a very good candidate, in my
I
opinion.
think so too. Yeah, I think it's a wise pick.
Yes,
So let's get
yes.
back to the basic question of "Kaun banega president," right? Who do you think? And I'm talking about analytically. We're doing a political analysis here. You've spoken about Trump and what, because obviously his speech just happened. But where is Biden on all of this? Now, let's talk about, if Biden were to become the next president, what is going to happen? If Trump were to become the next president, what is going to happen?
So Priyanka, Biden is stepping down from what we are seeing, and the announcement is supposed to come tomorrow. So
Yes.
between tomorrow and the next 4 weeks, when the convention starts, you're going to see a whole lot of posturing, a lot of horse trading. discussions in dark rooms. In fact, I don't know if you noticed, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she has actually come out very vocally against Kamala Harris, another progressive.
Yep.
I'm really shocked about this because Kamala Harris started out as a progressive. And she counts herself as a progressive, and so is AOC. The squad is progressive. Why are you basically turning away your own person? So there is something there that I don't understand.
I think AOC also made a statement last year, and sorry to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt your chain of thought because I gave you a very loaded question. But I think AOC also made statements against Pelosi, saying, I think it was maybe it was a couple of years ago, that people who are senior in the party don't give youngsters a chance. So there might be a little bit of a personal anger there to the statement. But anyway, let's get back because that's a whole different topic.
What is expected to happen is that Biden will say he's not running for re-election, but he will see out this term.
Yep.
He has all the delegates. Now what he's going to tell us, it's going to be an open convention. What an open convention means is that you don't know who the party is going to select as its presidential candidate, as well as that presidential candidate in turn will have a vice presidential pick also. Right? So between now and the convention, next 4 weeks, I see 5 names coming up, Priyanka. 5 names. Okay.
Let's go.
The obvious one, Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Second one is Gavin Newsom. Third one is Gretchen Whitmer. And then you have Hillary Clinton, outside chance, and Michelle Obama. Yep. And I would look for this one, Michelle Obama.
The last one, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Do you really think, because her name has been going on for months now, do you really think, and she has done, I mean, she came into the limelight doing random things, but basically getting more press coverage over the last couple of years. Why would you say she is probably going to be the next presidential candidate, right? If she gets selected, the next party choice.
The data is pointing towards a Black American to be the candidate from Democratic Party, and probably a woman. I'll tell you why. Day before yesterday, what really, what was the last straw that broke the camel's back as far as Biden's campaign is concerned, is a study that said that Biden has lost 30% of Black American women vote.
Yep.
So this is something like, oh my goodness, this is my vault. This is my bank. And my bank is no longer trusting me. In his moments of clarity, I think that dawned on him that, oh my goodness, I think now my goose is well and truly cooked. So that is one thing. So Biden steps aside. Then what happened? Then you need to go back and first retrieve that bank. Who are you going to do it? By trying to say, okay, we have a Black American candidate. Kamala could pick that bill.
Do you feel that Obama's influence is going to select the next person?
100%. 100%.
Why do you say that?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
And that was on my mind. So thanks for that question.
For the first 3 years of his administration, Biden's administration, there was somebody else pulling the levers all the time. And that person, everybody has identified, is Susan Rice. And Susan Rice is considered very close to Obama because in the initial days, what you would see is the White House would make a statement. In 24 hours, they'll reverse themselves, exact opposite. So clearly somebody was second guessing the White House all the time. And this kept happening until Biden made an official announcement that he is seeking re-election for 2024. In April 2023, she stepped down. And the other big thing that happened was many of her visits to the White House, they were all scraped clean. There are entry logs in various registers. Somehow that has all been sanitized because they are afraid that should the Republicans come back in 2024 and they launch an investigation, they will find out a lot of things that perhaps the Obama team doesn't want them to know. Clearly, in fact, Obama has hinted in one of his interviews, he just said, just think that you are not in power, but you have all the power. Something to that effect. So,
okay. So let's say that Biden steps down. It's going to be Michelle Obama versus Trump. Kaun banega president, Sree?
So Biden steps down, then there's going to be a convention, there's going to be a horse trading. He has about, there are delegates and there are super delegates. Now, what is going to happen is, I think the way this process, the way I understand it, the delegates will first vote.
Mhm.
5 candidates, let's say, and I would expect them to have a 51% winner. If not, there may be second round of voting where the top two finishers from the first round will go back and have a call again.
Yeah.
And at some point of time here, super delegates also may get into the mix. So
Mhm.
I don't know what the rules are exactly. People are saying that the super delegates also will vote at the beginning itself, but some are saying no, no, no. If there is an unclear signal from the delegates, then the super delegates will get into the act. In fact, if you remember, this was the bone of contention between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders.
Yes. I
Bernie
was
Sanders
just
felt
going to say
cheated.
that.
Yeah,
And rightfully so, actually.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah.
so these are all things that are going to happen. You will start seeing, statements coming praising somebody and running down somebody else, like
Yeah.
you said about, the links of Usha Chilukuri's some relative to be in RSS. For
Yeah.
those of you who don't know, viewers, because there could be an audience here, worldwide audience, RSS is the world's largest NGO, non-governmental organizations. When there is any kind of a calamity, a disaster or an earthquake or anything like that, RSS is often the first one on the scene. They
Mhm.
are the ones who do all the dirty work, meaning, like, if there is like flood damage, right? What happens is, the famous Oscar Wilde statement: water, water everywhere, water, water, not a drop to spare. You
Mhm.
cannot drink the flood water that's full of, it's infested with cholera. So these kinds of things, setting up safe kitchens, setting up blankets, giving people hope, giving them food, all these things, RSS is among the first ones to volunteer.
And they were one of the most effective organizations to give the most, those that needed it the most, rice
Yes,
during
yes,
COVID-19.
yes,
They were
yes.
very, very much on the ground across the country in India.
Yes, and also I might tell at this point of time, when the second wave of COVID hit India, second wave was much more nastier than the first wave. There were
Mhm.
many instances where the children could go to cremate their parent because they were, quarantined.
Yeah.
It was RSS whose volunteers were, they were wearing all these space suits. They offered to do this kriya for them.
Mhm.
This has happened too many times, and
Yeah.
people don't, they don't want to talk about all these things. Instead, just keep saying that RSS is this, they are the Hindutva, they go back to Savarkar,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. These are all, take one small bit of data and then try to build a
They're
narrative
very
of it.
unobjective statements. And like I
Yes,
said,
yes,
when I was in India, I got exposure to what the organization was about. You can read some of my
yes,
articles on my experience with the RSS as well. Just because I've grown up in the US, so I have grown up reading some of the things that you just said. Just taking one thing of data and spreading it and stretching it and exaggerating it, I should say, in some cases. So I think, Shriji, we should have another debate. This wasn't actually a debate. I think this was more of a discussion. But
yes,
I think it's undeterminable right now, kaun banega president, to get back to the main question that we're trying to answer, just because we're going to see a lot of flux, as you said, within the Democratic Party. And this is leading up to the convention, which is on August 19th to, I believe, the 23rd or 22nd. I'm not sure. Somebody can check the dates for me. But I think that uh, my take on this is, if there is so much flux so close to the election, right? Because a lot of, I think, Democrats that I know, they have been saying, why don't they just switch out the candidate? Why so late? Why wait until the last minute to kind of do this? So I'm very curious, and what I want to analyze is, why did they wait until the last minute? It was much easier then to switch out a candidate before. Did they hope to sabotage the Republican strategy? Did they hope to? I just want to know. That's what I want to sit and analyze. And perhaps that is another discussion. What do you think?
absolutely. And before we wind up, I just want to have one takeaway, and then we can take some
Yeah,
questions. We can take turns at
of course.
answering these questions. One of the things that Trump wound up when he was going through the speech, he said, first he said, "Make America great again,"
Yeah.
and then
What's
after
so bad
some time
about
he said,
that?
and then he said, "Make America affordable again." I don't know if you remember that famous
Yep.
Diva line where Shashi Kapoor says, "Mere paas maa hai." So there's that was Trump's moment.
I think so too. Yeah, and people are. It's even Shriji. Some people on some of my colleagues who are on, I shouldn't say colleagues, but I'll just say friends here, who are on dating apps. It's become so polarized. And I'm talking about the youth voice here. Even on these dating apps, there are comments. If you're a MAGA person, I don't want to talk to you. This is how polarized it is getting. This is just how, and I liked what Trump has to say, make America great again. Well, what's so bad about that? What can you say? Why is that such a bad thing, right? He said that during his speech. So I do think that that was a great way to end the speech. But let's go on to the questions, because I think we're trying to wind up here, right? So I want to
Yes,
answer as many
yes.
questions as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go to the questions now.
Yep.
Sarvani Tumuluri wants to know, how fair is the election in USA? In many places, ID is also not checked, it seems. How far is this true? If it's true, why the people of USA are not questioning the process to be more secure? You want to go ahead first?
Well, I think when we're talking about free and fair elections, they run about the same in in democratic countries. So this is a very, very loaded question. In many places, ID is not checked. There was an issue the last time around when people voted that there were, ballots from dead people that were coming into the fray. So I definitely think that the people of the USA have been questioning this. They are very aware of it. Trump has called it out over the past few years, right? I got cheated during this election. I believe in Florida, it was he's clean. The judge basically ruled in favor of Trump. The case got dismissed in court for in terms of cheating on the elections. So I think that now, especially when people vote, it is going to be more secure. I strongly believe that. And people are going to be more wary and unafraid to call out if there is any foul play. Last time around, remember, it was COVID. People were scared for their own families. Those that came to vote, the large part of it was mail-in votes at that point in time. This time around, people are going to be lining up, and you can surely, I would say, expect that if there is any foul play, somebody is going to call it out, and everybody has their phone, so it's going to go on social media. I actually foresee that there's going to be a lot of checks on the election process, the voting process, I should say, this time around, if that answers your question.
Yeah, so before we go to the next question, go back to the previous question. Thank you. So a couple of things have happened. One is a court ruling in Arizona, which mandates that citizenship ID be checked before allowing anybody to vote in the presidential election. Arizona has a strange law. They require ID for voting in state-related election, but not in federal. So each state has its own set of exotic rules like this.
Yep.
And the state Supreme Court has ruled on this. I'll be talking about this briefly. First thing in the morning, 6 a.m. tomorrow, you can watch that. Second one is the US Congress has passed a bill called SAVE Act, where they are going to insist that citizenship identification is a must before you allow anyone to vote. So that is, when the Congress has passed it, the Senate has not passed it. It's a Democratic Senate. Senate is pushing back on it. I don't know if it will pass through, but the fact that Arizona has done this will probably give pause to many people saying, look, we should have this check in place. The country wants it.
And
we want
hopefully
only citizens of the United States
to do it as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Can we go on to the next question?
Yeah. Anand Gopalan Kidambi wants to know, Priyanka, I found a Trump speech for 90 minutes, US Jodo Bhashan. I know it was a big hit. Is that enough for Trump to triumph in the presidential election? Is he over-dependent on shooting incident?
I don't think he's over-dependent on the shooting incident. I think the people, you saw a lot of comments worldwide that, as soon as the assassination attempt happened, a lot of people came out on social media to say, hey, election signed, sealed, delivered to Trump, right? He's going to get the sympathy vote, just like Indira Gandhi got the sympathy vote, right? She was, of course, elected for other reasons as well. I think Trump is going to be elected for other reasons as well, just because Granted, the first 10 minutes of the Republican National Convention speech was dedicated to what happened in the shooting and his experience in the shooting, but or in the assassination attempt, I should say. But I think that that was the first time, Sree, that he's spoken after the assassination attempt, right? So that was the first. It was, you could watch him sitting there listening to all of the speeches. This was the first time he got up on the mic, and he basically gave the people what they wanted to hear. I think the whole world wanted to hear his experience of what had happened and his account of what had happened. I don't think he's over dependent on it though, because he spent the rest of the 83 minutes of his speech talking about policy and talking about how he's going to unite the country. So I do think that he, like I said before, in when we were talking a little bit before, very different approach to his approach during the first time that he ran. It's almost as if, he was a very inexperienced politician at that time. He's become a very seasoned. That was my take on it. My gosh, the way he's speaking like a presidential candidate. He's talking about policy. He's hitting policy. He's hitting his promises, what he's going to do about it. Of course, I would have loved to see more detail, but I feel that we are going to see that in the upcoming speeches of his and in the upcoming debates of his.
Yes, indeed. Next question, please. Srikanth Iyer wants to know, are there any people of East Asian origin who might enter big ticket politics in the USA?
What do you think, Sree? Do I have a future in politics?
Yes, indeed. You just have to find a backer like Rothschild or Rockefeller.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were just talking about this, Srikanth, a little bit before we even started this conversation. Sree and I were saying that a lot of these people that have run in U.S. politics, Obama included, Vivek included, Vance included, they did have these backers. They did have political backers, which is how politics works on I would say, on any part of the planet. So I do think that, yes, to answer your question, but I think actually this deserves another, a whole separate debate, a whole separate conversation.
Next question, please. Shankar VK wants to know, Priyanka ji, what do you think of Blinken saying Iran is just weeks away from developing nuclear fissile material?
Well, I think number one, it's true. I don't think that it's going to be developed. It's you got to remember that, Shankar ji, that it is an election going on. So as Sree ji said, you are going to see a lot of these sort of not just character assassinations like what happened with Usha Vance. They're trying to already marginalize her with, she had a relative who was jailed in the RSS. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of these big statements going around. That's why I think over the next few weeks at least, and after the Democrat National Convention takes place, you really want to see what the candidates themselves are saying. You really want to see what is inside those speeches in terms of, forget the, I would say, sensationalism. Let's talk about the actual policies. So I think that is the most important thing to keep in mind, because Blinken saying something, you're going to see 10 other people saying a bunch of other things on both sides. That is just how the election process works right now. Emotions and energy is flared up because we're getting into the final vote in November. So it's just a few months away. There's not that much time.
Next one, please. Lakshan wants to know, Biden's foreign policy seems to be Russia, while Trump's may be China. What are the views on this?
Shriji, you want to take this, because he did make mentions of Russia in his speech?
Yes, indeed. And what he said was that if elected president, he'll stop the Russia-Ukraine conflict in one day. Not sure it can be done in one day because they both have taken some positions and so on and so forth. But at least the intent will be much more stronger. He will do whatever it takes to stop that. This is a huge bleed on the economies of Europe as well as the United States. I mean, we are just carte blanche writing checks. And where is that payment going to come due? Nobody is talking about that. So that is one challenge. The second thing about China is China had this tariff problem from a long time. And that needs to be sorted out. I would be more keen to see whether Trump can get his 15% corporate tax through. He got it down to 22%.
Yep.
And Biden has not raised it. Let's accept that. Biden also talked about getting it down to 15% in the United States.
That's
and
right.
He couldn't do that, but Trump has said that he will lower it to 15%. Also, personal income taxes, Trump made it easier to file returns, but he took away a lot of the fringe expenses that you could put. But at the same time, he raised the standard deduction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 6 of this and half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
To me, at the end of the day, it takes me less time to file personal taxes today. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Not sure if I'd be able to save more in the previous or new one. I mean, it doesn't make much of a difference. So this is where things stand. I think Trump has the momentum going in now, but there are still 3 months left, and who knows what will happen. Certainly,
a lot of things are going to happen.
A lot of things are going to happen, right?
Yep. All right. I think we can stop the questions, but I would be more than happy to, guys, keep putting your questions down. This is a very interesting and ongoing discussion that Sree and I will have. So please put your questions down. I think I would be more than happy to come revisit this video and answer some of the questions personally. And keep watching the channel. Sreeji, it's over to you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. I actually prepared quite a bit for this. Watched Hillbilly Elegy. I also watched the complete speech of Trump, made notes. And in fact, I might have missed a few things, but we have got the basic picture out there.
I think we can go more in detail in the future as well, because those points are more and more relevant in the upcoming weeks.
Right.
Yep.
We have a hunch that India is very interested in knowing what happens in the United States. So please support us. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click on the bell button for notification. And always a word of support for Priyanka, who's finding her feet now in US journalism. Thanks, Priyanka. Namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you. Bye.